So I want to focus on your signature successful selling sweet spot that ultimately will help you to connect your communication to your ideal audience, because it's important to make that connection. And so this topic was actually inspired by my core tribe that wanted to hear more about making that connection and having that sweet spot for selling. So I wanted to actually talk more about having a signature successful sweet spot as it relates to selling. Now, it's not what most are probably thinking. My sweet spot is where I feel in the zone and, I'm inspired, to bring this message to my audience. That's part of it, but it certainly is not all of it. It's actually not the major, grander aspect. So your signature successful selling sweet spot is all about being tapped into the soul source of who you are, of course, but also the source, the creator source that will give you the higher level intelligence and infinite wisdom on how to communicate, but also how to tap into not just your deep desire, but also your core audience's deep desire. And see, that's important because sometimes we think we know what they want, what they desire, or we create out of what we feel that they need, right? And even if that works sometimes, but what we have to realize is there's still a connection factor. You still have to be really touching into the areas that they really want at a deep level, even if it's not the ones that they are really communicating and articulating. You have to be able to be connected in that way, okay? And so also I want to say that, your sweet spot is really your selling G spot. So that G spot has multiple layers and dimensions. It's your God spot for selling, okay? But also it's your greatness, right? So there's multiple layers to this, and I actually do talk about this in another training that I offer. But when we get into the signature, like I said, the signature sweet spot. Now, I want to make some distinctions because your sweet spot is kind of like, yes, your deep passion and what you really want to bring, to the marketplace and communicate that in a way that's going to be effective, that really comes from your heart. But the signature aspect is that source connection. Again, that goes back to that higher wisdom, that higher infinite intelligence, that God space, God source communication that's going to be spot on and it's going to be accurate. It is communicating from your soul, the soul of God, so to speak, to the soul of your audience. And so who knows better of how to communicate and articulate to your audience than the highest intelligence that created you, right? So believe it or not, communing with source or communing with God in that way is going to put you in that signature successful sweet spot. And then you'll just be flowing with the articulation that is going to be most relevant for your audience to make a connection. Doesn't that sound great? Yeah, that you get to have your spiritual connection and your soul connection, the source of all that's going to infuse you. So let me talk a little bit about why this is actually different than just, praying to be guided to the right form of selling. This is another level. So it's going into a deeper communion in a specific spot within source. And the signature spot, again, is going to yield a higher form of communication that you need to, provide to make that connection, the connection that really converts, so to speak. And you definitely want that because that's really important. Now, in the process of this, you will be stirred at a deeper level. Here's why. Because you're going to tap into something like a well, an inner wellspring. You're going to tap into something that you never even thought about. And then you're going to discover that, wow, you're actually really passionate on some different levels for not only what you're bringing forth, but also what's emerging, what's going to be coming. And this is why this is so signature, because it puts you in a completely different bracket of than just your average, let me sit down and get together my sales copy and what I'm going to say, and again, provide what I think and feel that they most want. This puts you in the soul of them, the soul of the source of them. It is God communing with God. It is source communing with source, soul communing with soul from you and your core audience. It's just a brilliant experience. So from here, when you get into this place, and we're going to take just a moment to just be present in the space with this, but from this place, you're going to feel that higher connection for yourself, and then you start knowing exactly what you need to flow. Now, getting present for this, like I said, some initial things may come up and you jot those down, okay? So make sure that you get a piece of paper. So don't rely on your memory for this. So I'm going to give you just a few moments just to grab, pen and paper, just note-taking material, right? Because this is important. So while you're doing that, I'm going to just talk a little bit about, having something signature. Just like how you have a signature offer, right? Or you think about in restaurants or so, they have signature dishes, but they have several dishes, but they have signature ones, right? And so this is about you being able to kind of look at the menu and look at the options, right, of what you already provide and what you're providing in terms of your sales copies and your approach, your marketing communication, right? Your advertising, and how you want to optimize that. So you can look and see what is there in terms of what you've been delivering or what you think you're going to deliver. There will be something that kind of rises to the top, or something new that comes out, and it feels more signature, or the marketing or so, the communication is about a specific signature, like a coaching program or so, versus a publication or just an audio product or so, that maybe they're just companion additions to something that you offer. But whatever is your signature is the one that you put your most of your time in. That's your big thing, right? So your signature successful selling sweet spot puts you in that same energy, but it's different because it is not just your energy, it is full-blown source energy in a certain way. It's your true connection to source selling, right? In that higher potential. And so from there, you'll be able to bring forth that signature connection message, that connection copy, that connection communication, for your audience. So, okay. So let's just take a few moments. We're going to take a couple of deep breaths, and then we're going to just be in that space. And for some of you, that's going to be new in terms of what this higher space is, right? Again, very different than your traditional prayer or just getting present a certain way. This is being extremely intentional to find and tap into that sweet spot, that essence. For some of you, it's going to be very subtle, and for some of you, it's going to be like, whoa, So let's take a few moments and do that now. So I'm going to invite you to take 3 deep breaths. You can close your eyes. Okay. So now let's just be in this signature success selling sweet spot. This energy is the source connection, your signature source selling sweet spot, I should say. So let's be in that energy of source, that higher infinite intelligence, that ultimate creator. So we're actually going to be present in this. Let's take about 5 deep belly breaths here. You just be in this space for just a few moments here. Okay. So what came up for you just initially? Because sometimes this process can happen fairly quickly, a very accelerated, process. So what did you feel just in those few seconds? And then we're going to take a little bit more time just to be there. All right. For me, what came up was about really focusing on the greatness and the greater opportunities to excel. And that's very important because there are different levels of excelling, different levels, just like there's different levels of the source connection, right? And the selling connection. But it's like getting into the signature greatness. There it is. That is marrying those two. The signature greatness for excelling, right? So that's a message that my audience desires to hear, because it is there for them is where they're going to find their sweet spot in general, no matter what it is. Now for you, I'm talking about the selling aspect, right? For business owners and entrepreneurs. But for my audience that's not necessarily interested in sales, so to speak, there's an overall arching theme that needs to come forth about the signature greatness, and that actually being, a sweet spot for success. So I'll possibly do a vlog about that, or I'll do some type of blog, post. And also too, because I serve different industries, I'll allow that core theme to go kind of across the board and hit it at different angles. So even right now, something that I want to talk about in terms of that particular theme, in a sense, just for you all. So when we think about, again, greatness and greater potential, right? Again, there's different levels. But what is the signature success factor within that? Because there is when they say, follow your bliss, so to speak. This is where when you are really into that sweet spot of your greatness, right? The sweet spot of your greatness, the very nectar, the essence. But it's like even getting that at a deeper level, like tasting the nectar of something. You've had it before, but this time it was like nothing else, like this is a new experience. And so that greatness means that you've reached another level of your potential, right? Another level of the experience. That's what you want to be present with for yourself. And we're going to actually do a little bit more around that, to be present even in that powerful intention and core theme that just came up for me in terms of a focus. But yeah, so let me not digress too much, but I felt it was important to say that because that's what came up, and how I could just demonstrate how just in the moment I could talk about that with you all. All right, so I was asking what came up for you, and I'd love for you to put it in the comments, just something initially, because even if it was just something little subtle or just one little thing, it's a trigger mechanic to jump off from in terms of bringing some expansion, to that. So I want you to think about it, write down, how you felt and what you just thought. Oh, I had an aha, what I call a profitable aha, and what could potentially come, from there. What is the sweetness? All right. So that's a question to ask, really, about anything that comes up during this time. What is the nectar, of this? What is the core desire that I touch my audience at a soul level with this opportunity? Not just the offers, but the opportunity, the experience, right? And so from there, some communication should come up in terms of, here's like a signature line or statement that you get started with and allow it to be a lead in. Now, some of you might have gotten an idea, it's actually something I need to create. They're wanting something actually newer than what I already have, but I can leverage what I already have as a companion, a component to this next level, right? So those are things to think about. So even as I'm talking about this, I am feeling like I'm in my zone, in a sense, like I'm really tapping more into my source connection selling power, right? And so yeah, so I have trainings, around this area and this aspect, but I'm going to talk a little bit more about it because again, what my audience was desiring, how this was really inspired, was in terms of using it in marketing communication. And so even as I'm thinking about this now, in terms of the signature greatness, and actually leveraging metaphorically what I was saying about the nectar of something, and have you ever had a certain dish or a certain experience and you thought that it was extremely, wonderful, it was the bomb, however, and imagine that being 10 or 20x, you know, wow, that's selling ecstasy, or that's the ecstasy of an experience. It's far beyond your mind and comprehension. It's like, well, I thought that was so great. You mean it can get greater? Almost to the point like, whoa, can I handle that in a sense? But then it's perfect, right? So obviously I'm going on here because I'm getting really excited, about this and the potential there. So what we're going to do now is be present just in the energy and the essence that I've cultivated. And it's like going into a new dimension of source potential and then discovering that sweet spot, right, for success. So what does success look and feel like in this deeper part of the nectar? So let's be present. Be present in that energy and take about, let's take 7 deep breaths, okay? Okay. All right. So what are you feeling there? Because me, I'm kind of like a little warm and fuzzy here. I'm actually excited, but yet I'm very calm. I feel like if I had to sit down and write copy right now, I could flow it very fluently. Like I'm in that zone, if you will, in a sense. But I feel like I have been exposed to another level of potential and the opportunity to expand that potential for myself and then be able to share that, with my core audience on multiple different levels. So how this relates to selling, and I'm going to come back to see how, you all felt, just in that energy. How this relates to selling is that it gives you the advantage to be able to have that, not sneak peek, but really be in the, not just the mind, the soul of your ideal audience, that prospect, the consumer. But not only that, also those that you served before, they're going to feel something different from you. And it's going to be so drawing. It's undeniable. It's like, bees and honey. It's that high level attraction factor. And so this is very different than when you traditionally do some sales and marketing or advertising, so to speak, so that you can obviously make an impact and an income. This flows from a place that you just almost can't put into words yet. It's so just organic in a sense, and you're just so mind blown by, wow, I never even thought, I never felt this way about writing copy. I never felt this way even about doing closing, so to speak. Because some people aren't confident with closing as it relates, to sales. They're good with marketing, good with advertising in a sense, but sometimes that closer, because the closer is what connects you to the conversion, right? So if you can't close, you can't connect, you can't close, right? So this energy gives you that perfect, accurate articulation for powerfully closing in a very subtle yet significant way. So I love to hear in the comments in terms of just being in that energy how that felt, what came up in terms of how you can now take what you felt and experienced and start flowing great communication that connects. And you can actually ask that question, that empowering question to yourself. What is the communication that connects and converts? So that's the 3 C's, communication, connect, convert. And within that, that is the signature sweet spot, for selling. So instead of continuing to expound upon this, because I could go on for days and days and days on this, I'm actually going to bring it to a close here. But I want you to replay this and be in that energy and allow different levels and dimensions to build, from this context, and see what comes up. Rinse and repeat this process at least 3 times, and then start to craft, your marketing communications for something that you already have or whatever came up, or start to create that signature success selling opportunity. And when I say selling opportunity, some of you who aren't necessarily in sales, so to speak, but it is the opportunity still for the communication, the connection, and the conversion. Just whatever it is, you can leverage this actually for any and everything. Just finding the signature sweet spot of that source energy, for yourself. Okay, so I'll be back with more videos of this nature, and I look forward to seeing you soon.